today we're going to continue the journey on this Mustang engine V8 adventure that we embarked on a couple weeks ago. We got the engine out of the car, disconnected all the components. Today, what we're going to be doing is stripping all of the engine components down to just the bare block. The first thing you're going to start doing is take a 13 millimeter and undo the exhaust bolts. And there should be 8 bolts. So you'll want to do this in a circle pattern so that you don't mess up any of your mating surfaces. So next, we're going to take off these valve covers. You're going to need an 8 millimeter deep socket for these. And there's several bolts. There's no really rhyme or reason to the order to take them off. Just take them off and you should be good. Keep them in a safe place if you have them painted because they can get scratched easily. Finally, now we're going to take this oddly blue oil pan off, the only part of the car that's painted. You do want to do a circle pattern with this again. Again, it's a 13 millimeter bolt, about 15 bolts you're going to take off for that. Take it off, and then that exposes the underbody of the engine. For some reason, as you can see, the wiring harness is still on because I didn't know what I was doing. So finally, we get the wiring harness removed. Now, finally, you can take the driver's side exhaust, but you have to wiggle the EGR valve off with it. It took us a while, but we finally got it. As you can see, the engine is upside down, and your IQ will go up 20 points if you decide to remove the intake manifold while the engine is upside down, which is what I decided to do for some reason. But we got it off and it all worked out. Needed more cloths, took a real quick trip to Goodwill, and so we got these cloths. Boom, we're teleporting back to the garage. Got our mess we're cleaning up right now with that Goodwill cloth. Also, when I was looking for cloths, found this strange baby outfit, but I didn't want to use that as a cloth to clean up the mess in the garage. Figured someone else would make better use of it. Finally, we're going to take this water pump pulley out. There should be 4 bolts for you if you're working on this engine. Before we remove the timing cover, we're going to be removing the harmonic balancer. This can be very tricky, but I came up with a clever trick to get this out. It took a few tries to get it out, as you can see here. It took a couple failed attempts, but what I ended up doing was taking a rope and tying the rope around the harmonic balancer, as you can see here, and then tied it to part of the timing cover. And make sure that's really tight and secure and you're not going to bend anything or mess up any threads. And then go ahead and get that harmonic balancer bolt and it should break free if you had the same luck that I did. And it worked like a beauty and it felt so good to get that bolt out. I mean, me telling you it was really quick, but it took forever to get that bolt out. So don't be like me and do it the right way and you'll get that bolt out. And it should be free to get that harmonic balancer out with the harmonic balancer removal tool. If you go to your local auto parts store, they should loan out this tool for you for maybe 20 bucks, but when you bring it back, they'll give you your entire money back. Maybe O'Reilly, AutoZone, not sponsored by them, but we should be. And so you go ahead, use that tool, use it like you see here. It's very simple to do. It takes a good 10 minutes to get out, a good bit of upper body strength. But once it's out, check it out, you see it. Now that that harmonic balancer is out, we are ready to remove the timing cover. Yay! Okay, so now you have bolts all around, and you're going to start from the outermost bolts to the innermost bolts. You're going to alternate from 18 millimeter to 13 millimeter bolts, use deep sockets. Once you started from the outside and moved inwards, getting those timing cover bolts off, now that sucker just comes right off. If you're having a hard time, feel free to grab a pry bar and be mild with it. Don't go all lumberjack with it, but you want to pry that timing cover off gently. And now, all your timing components are exposed. Every mechanic's favorite part of working on an engine. Certainly not mine though. The first step to removing the timing on this engine is to remove the tensioners. So you have 2 10 millimeter bolts, one on each side. Get those off. You're going to start with the passenger side first. Remove that. The tension guide comes loose and that slides right off. Then you have the chain guide. That requires 2 8 millimeter bolts. Those come right off. Keep it in a safe place. And then you repeat that same exact procedure for the driver's side. Get those off. Your timing chains are off. And you're good to go. The next big step for you, but giant leap for mankind, the next small step for mankind, but giant leap for you, is removing the heads. And so you can start with either head you want, driver's side or passenger side. So you can see here we started with the passenger side. And you go ahead and remove those. Pay very close attention to the order that you remove the bolts because it really does matter. As you can see here, we're starting with a circle pattern. So you start from the left to the right, and then from the right to the left on the bottom. Be very careful, and you want to take your time with these and get those bolts out. You never want to repeat using head bolts, so you can toss those out, maybe even recycle them. Be good for the environment. And then get those out. The head comes off. I hope you have good upper body strength because those things can be heavy, even the aluminum ones. So take those off and make sure you put them in a very safe place. Maybe get cardboard and set them on the cardboard because you don't want to mess up that mating surface on the bottom of that head. It's very fragile. Boom! Do you see what I see? I see really nasty pistons that looks like there's oil caked on and a bunch of stuff that needs to be cleaned up. Yeah, those are going to be real fun to clean. You can finally remove that oil dipstick that you can find on the driver's side. Honestly, kind of like the wiring harness, you could have removed that a lot earlier, but since this is the first time the person you're watching has rebuilt this engine, we decided to do it and wait till now. So now, once that's removed, you can finally remove the driver's side head. Boom! Now, you don't have any heads on your engine. Now, you just have the block and the pistons, and you're looking at a heart. You're looking at the heart of an engine, the heart of a car, really. You're privileged and you're blessed to see that because not a lot of people, even if you made it this far, boom, it's an amazing experience. You can see the pistons. It's a very intimate experience with your car. Don't tell anyone I said that. Now, once the engine is upside down, you're going to remove that oil pickup tube, which is very easy. It's just two 10mm bolts. Put that in a safe place. Are you getting the theme here? Yeah, put things in a safe place when you're working on cars. Now we're going to be removing the rod caps. Those are just 2 bolts for each one, and remove one at a time. Once that's out, the pistons shouldn't really drop out, so you don't have to worry about those dropping out. Just remove all the caps and analyze those rod bearings because that's going to tell you a lot about what's going on in this engine. And check this out. Wow, look how healthy that rod bearing looks like. Ooh, yeah, this is good scoring here, and not the good kind of scoring, actually. It's really bad scoring on this rod cap cylinder. What am I saying? Mechanics all around the world are screaming and tossing and turning in their sleep because this is not good. Now, that cap does not match that rod. Doesn't match. Doesn't match. Doesn't match. It's kind of like putting ketchup with your ice cream. Something's wrong here. Whenever you take the caps off, those mate specifically to that rod. When rods are made, they are cast as one piece and then they are cracked in half. So only that part matches to that part. I'll demonstrate for you. It's kind of like you take a piece of paper and you rip it in half, and that paper only matches up to that paper. So that's the same thing with rods and rod caps. You can't mix and match. You can't do that. That's exactly what went wrong in this engine. A rod cap that didn't fit that rod was installed onto a rod. They did not fit. Do you see that gap? Hello? Something's not right here. That's where the scoring on the crankshaft came from. Look at that gap in that crankshaft journal. If you thought that scoring on the bearings were bad, whoa. Look at the journal on that crankshaft. When we took the oil pan out, there was metal grindings in there, metal shavings. I wonder where that came from. As you can see me doing here, you might ask, what am I doing with this box, this old janky box? What I'm doing is creating a orderly system to store those pistons, because what we're going to do is make sure we replace the pistons to the same exact spot where they came from. Again, you don't want to mix and match when you're this deep into the heart of the engine. So we're going to make sure we label those and replace them exactly to where they came from. Whenever you're removing those pistons, what you want to do is take a sock or another soft surface and wrap it around that rod so that you don't score the edge of the cylinder, because you have metal on metal and the cylinder walls are very smooth, and if they get hit by something sharp, it will mess them up. So put a sock around it, and when you slide those pistons out, you just want to be very gentle and slow and make sure that no metal on metal contact hits. And if you do end up getting metal on metal contact, analyze it, because that could not be a good thing. So just make sure you be careful when you remove those. Now we're going to remove the oil pump, which gets 4 bolts. Be very gentle with these because they can be easy to break. That oil pump just comes right out. It's about time to remove that rear main seal. This can be really tricky because your engine is on an engine stand. I realize that. Your hand will probably be cramped trying to get all those bolts out. There's about 6 of them. But you can do it. They're 8mm bolts. You can do it. Just get them out. That rear main seal just pops right off. Boom. Keep it in a safe place. Now comes a really fun part. It's the removal of the main bearing caps. This one you have to follow a procedure. First, what you want to do is remove the 2 bolts on the top of each main bearing cap. So remove those 2 bolts, and then you have 2 side bolts on the sides that you'll remove. But first, we're going to go ahead and do all of them first, as you can see here in this very cinematic view. The top ones are 15 millimeter bolts, so you're going to go ahead and remove those. Then the side ones, you're going to remove all of those. Those are just 11 millimeter bolts. And then you have dowel pins that you're going to get out. For you, maybe you use a flathead screwdriver to get that out, and that's what I did in this instance. Maybe you can use a crowbar, pry bar, get those out. Be gentle though, don't force anything. Those dowel pins should just come out. It's actually very satisfying when those come out. And when they come out, then boom, your entire main cap just comes right off. And you want to keep them in an orderly fashion because they are labeled, and you need to replace those right where they came from. You can't mix and match those. As you can see here, I'm rotating the crankshaft in order to make it easier on me to take that main bearing cap off, because it's just a lot easier when you rotate the crankshaft along. So enough of that. There's no hope for this crankshaft. We're going to have to replace that. Pistons are organized. Cylinders look actually pretty nice. And there's lots of cleaning to do, as you can see. But now you've dissected the heart of your car. Now it's time to prep for reassembly. That comes in the next episode. And then once you have... Hey, how's it going? You know anything about cars? You want to say something? We're doing a car video.
Yeah. Come on, car guy.
All right, just give the audience a quick car tip.
Drive safe. Drive on the right side of the road. 2 hands. 10 and 2.
Or if you're in Europe, the left side of the road.
Europe, 10 and 2. Usually obey the speed limit. Typically in Evansville, like they won't pull you over unless you're going like 15 over. So stick about 10 to 12 over in Evansville, Newburgh area. On the Lloyd, hit that baby. Room, all right?
But if you're not from the tri-state area, then don't pay any attention to what he just said.
If you're not from Southern Indiana, ignore that. But please drive safe. Drive safe and be careful, ladies and gentlemen.
All right, get
Always
out of
buckle
here.
up, all right?
If you want to add Christian Johnson on social media, look right here and look no further. It's right here. What do you want? Snapchat?
Snapchat, Insta.
Snapchat, Insta.
LinkedIn. Venmo, my Venmo, put that on there.
Here's Christian Johnson's Snapchat. Here's his Instagram. Here's his Venmo. Okay. Thanks for embarking with me on this journey of stripping down the engine. We'll be back with another episode. In the meantime, my cameraman has something to show you.
So when cooking asparagus, you want to make sure your stove or your oven or your microwave is powered on. So make sure to plug it into the wall. Make sure your breaker's turned on in the breaker box so it'll have power. So then you'll make sure to put a lot of butter, because that's like the best thing to use for asparagus because it's disgusting. And butter is